I'm Mark. I'm the kind of guy who notices when the ketchup is running low and actually folds the laundry instead of letting it live in the dryer for 3 days. I like order. I like predictability, which is why the last few weeks of my marriage felt like trying to eat soup with a fork. Messy, frustrating, and you end up hungry anyway. It started small, the way this stuff always does. No explosions, no screaming, no late-night phone calls from strangers. Just a quiet Saturday morning, Rachel sipping her coffee at the counter, scrolling her phone with that thoughtful little crease between her eyebrows. "One of the new people at work is having a hard time finding an apartment," she said suddenly, slipping on her sneakers. "Poor thing just moved to the city and is completely lost." She sounded almost excited, like this was a fun project, not a favor. I raised an eyebrow. "That's nice of you." She paused for a second, looking at me over her shoulder. "You don't mind me helping her, right?" "Of course not," I said, shrugging. "Go be a hero." She smiled, relieved, and grabbed her keys and kissed me on the cheek before heading out. I stayed behind and spent the morning in the garage, fixing that squeaky hinge on the door she'd been complaining about. It took me 2 hours because I decided to clean and oil the entire tool set while I was at it. It's what I do when I've got time. Fix, sort, make things better. When Rachel came home just before lunch, she was cheerful, hair windblown, smelling faintly like Target candles. She launched into a story about how this poor girl almost signed for a place with no windows. I nodded along, even threw in a good catch because I'm a supportive husband. But something about the way she told the story felt invested. Not just I helped a coworker, but I was personally responsible for this mission. Sunday, she left again. "Another showing," she said, tying her sneakers. "Already?" I asked. She found a second place she liked, and I promised I'd check it out with her. "I'll be back in a couple hours." She was gone 3. When she came home, she was glowing in that way that doesn't look like exhaustion. She tossed her bag by the door and leaned against the counter, animatedly telling me about square footage, light exposure, and how we think this one is the one. I caught the "we," but let it slide. That night we ate dinner late, half watching a movie neither of us finished. She kept smiling at her phone, typing fast, thumbs flying. I didn't ask who she was texting. Week 2, the apartment was apparently found, but now there was furniture shopping. Saturday morning, she came downstairs in a soft top and those earrings she calls effortlessly cute. "You look nice," I said casually, leaning in the doorway. She grinned. "Thanks. I'm just meeting her at HomeGoods." I tilted my head. "HomeGoods at 9 a.m.? She's busy. This is when she can go." She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world, then grabbed her keys and left. I made myself breakfast and tried not to think about it. When she texted around noon, "Running late, we're grabbing coffee after," I just sent back a thumbs up emoji. She got home around 5 p.m., arms full of bags, smiling like she'd just come back from the best day ever. "You should have seen the couch we almost bought," she said, laughing, cheeks flushed. "Perfect color, but way over budget." I smiled and nodded, but inside a little voice said, "You two sure sound like a couple." By the 3rd weekend, the pattern was carved in stone. Saturday morning, she'd be out the door before my coffee had cooled. Sunday afternoon, she'd come home late, hair neat, makeup still fresh, phone buzzing with notifications. One night, we sat on the couch together, for the first time all week, her legs curled under her, phone in hand. "Good shopping trip?" I asked. "Mm-hmm." "Your coworker again?" "Yeah," she said, smiling at her screen. "She just sent me a picture of a lamp we found." It looked so good in her living room, I grinned. This woman must think she won the lottery, getting a personal shopper and free interior design advice. "She's been so grateful," Rachel said quickly, like she wanted me to know how important this was. That word, grateful, stuck with me. Tuesday night, I decided to press a little. "What's your coworker's name again?" Rachel froze for a beat too long. "Why?" "Just curious," I said lightly. "You talk about her all the time." She hesitated, too long. then said, "Alex." I nodded slowly. "Alex." "Good to know. She's really sweet," Rachel added quickly, eyes darting back to her phone. "She?" I repeated. "Yes," she said, a little too fast, and right then something in my brain clicked. Alex could go either way, and that pause? That was the sound of someone choosing their pronouns very carefully. I didn't call her out. Instead, I started paying closer attention. Every time she said she, I mentally swapped it for he, and suddenly everything made more sense. The makeup before leaving, the extra stops for coffee, the way she came home glowing. By week 4, my patience was wearing thin. We were supposed to be planning our second honeymoon trip to Tuscany. Flights booked, villa reserved, winery tours lined up. But every time I tried to bring it up, Rachel was distracted. "So I was thinking we could do the wine tour the first day," I said one night. "Mm-hmm," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Then maybe drive to the coast?" "Sure," she murmured. I stared at her. "Do you even know what I just said?" She looked up, blinking. "Of course. Coast sounds nice." "Right," I said, turning back to my laptop. Friday night I tried again. "So how's Alex's place coming along?" "Almost done?" Rachel nodded absently. "Yeah, just a few more things to finish this weekend." "And then you'll finally have a free Saturday," I said lightly. She looked at me like I'd just accused her of a crime. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, keeping my tone even, "I miss spending weekends with my wife." She softened for half a second, then went back to scrolling. "It'll be over soon," she said. "We're just doing the finishing touches." "We?" I asked. Me? I'm just helping, that's all." I smiled. But inside something settled. She wasn't just helping, she was invested. And now so was I, whether I wanted to be or not. Sunday afternoon, she came home later than usual, dropped shopping bags on the table, and started telling me about a coffee table. Halfway through, she said it. He wasn't sure about it at first, but once we set it up, she froze. I froze. "You said he," I said quietly. Her eyes flicked to me, then away. "I meant she." Slip of the tongue. "Right," I said, staring at her a second longer. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The villa in Tuscany felt far away, like a plan we made in another life. My wife was out there designing a home with someone else, even if she called it helping. I didn't have proof it was more than furniture and coffee breaks, but I didn't need proof to know it was already too much. By Monday morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to yell, I wasn't going to accuse, I was going to wait until I had something undeniable, and then put the truth right in front of her, watch what she did with it. Because at this point, it wasn't about couches or coffee tables. It was about what kind of marriage we still had, or if we even had one at all. Monday, after my ceiling-staring epiphany, I went to work like normal. Because that's what you do. You go to work even when you want to throw your phone into a river. My coworkers probably thought I was just tired. In a way, I was. Tired of the quiet, tired of the late arrivals, tired of the "we found a lamp" updates about someone else's living room. When I got home that night, Rachel was already there, sitting at the kitchen counter with her laptop open and a glass of wine half finished. She looked up and smiled, but it was the polite smile you give neighbors, not the one that says, "I've been waiting for you all day." "Hey," I said, hanging my jacket. "Hey," she echoed, glancing back at the screen. "How was work?" "Busy." That was it. One word. I opened the fridge, pulled out leftovers, heated them in the microwave while she typed. When the timer beeped, she closed the laptop and turned to me like I'd been the rude one ignoring her. "I have to run out tomorrow after work," she said, "just for an hour or two." I nodded slowly. "Furniture?" She hesitated for a split second, then nodded. "Yeah, Alex found a dining table but needs a second opinion." "Good thing you're a professional opinion giver," I said, trying to keep my voice light. She didn't laugh. The next evening she left right after dinner. "Shouldn't be long," she said, leaning in to kiss me quickly before grabbing her bag. I sat down at the table with my laptop, opened a spreadsheet, then closed it again. I couldn't focus. Instead, I cleaned the counters, watered the plants, reorganized the junk drawer. By the time she came back 2 hours later, I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch a game. "How'd it go?" I asked. "We bought it," she said, smiling as she kicked off her shoes. "We?" I repeated. "Alex and I. The table. It looks great. You bought furniture together now? Should I be jealous?" She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." I laughed, but it wasn't the warm kind. Wednesday night, she was on her phone again, curled up in the corner of the couch, smiling that smile. I was flipping through channels, not watching any of them. "You talk to Alex a lot," I said casually. She looked up, caught off guard. "What?" "Just noticing," I said, nodding at her phone. "We're just finalizing a few things," she said quickly, putting the phone face down on the cushion. I didn't say anything. The silence stretched until she got up and went to take a shower. By Thursday, the air in the house felt heavier. When I got home, she was on the phone in the kitchen, laughing softly. When she saw me, her face changed. "Okay, I'll text you," she said quickly, ending the call. "Alex?" I asked. She nodded. "You two must be building a palace at this point." "It's just furniture," she said, defensive now. "Right," I said, opening the fridge for a beer. "Just furniture that takes a month to pick out and 1,000 texts to coordinate." She didn't respond. Friday night we had plans with friends. First time in weeks we'd gone out together. At the restaurant, Rachel was on her phone under the table, smiling to herself. Our friend Jenna noticed and asked, "What's so funny?" Rachel hesitated, then said, "Just a coworker." Inside joke. I watched her face. That wasn't an inside joke smile. That was a spark smile. On the drive home, I said, "So, Alex texted you at dinner?" "Yeah. He was sending me a picture of the shelves we put up earlier. They turned out great." I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. "He," I repeated. She froze for a second, then exhaled. "Okay, yes, Alex is a guy." "Does it matter?" "I think it does," I said calmly. "He's just a coworker. He just moved here. He needed help. And you were his volunteer real estate agent, personal shopper, and part-time decorator." Rachel crossed her arms, staring out the window. "You're making this sound worse than it is." "I'm making it sound exactly like what it is," I said. We didn't talk the rest of the ride. Saturday morning, she got up early again. "We just have to finish the bedroom. After that, it's done." "You sure?" I asked, not hiding the edge in my voice. "Yes, I'm sure. You don't have to look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you think I'm cheating on you," she snapped. "I didn't say that," I said, pouring coffee. "But you've spent more weekends with Alex than with me this month." "That's not nothing," she grabbed her keys. "I'll be back in a few hours." I watched her leave, the front door clicking shut like a period at the end of a sentence I didn't write. Around 2, she texted, "We're running late. Don't wait up for lunch." I put the phone face down, turned on music, cleaned the garage. By the time she came home, I was showered, changed, and sitting at the table with a beer. Rachel came in, humming, clearly in a good mood. Rachel was in a good mood, unpacking a few bags and telling me how they'd finally finished setting up the bedroom. I sat at the table, drinking my beer, nodding at the right moments, until she said a little too much. When we were together, she froze like the words had escaped before she could catch them. I looked up slowly. "Together?" Her smile faded. She stood there for a beat, then sighed. "Fine. Alex isn't just some guy from work. We dated. Years ago, I set the bottle down carefully, like putting a pin back in a grenade. So let me get this straight. For the past month, you've been spending every weekend with your ex, helping him move in, buying furniture, setting up his bedroom, and you didn't think that was relevant?" Rachel bit her lip. "I didn't want to make it weird. I just wanted to help him settle in and get it over with." I laughed once, short and humorless. "Oh, it's weird, Rachel. Trust me, it's already weird." She hesitated, biting her lip. Used to date. Back before you and I met. I set my phone down slowly. And you didn't think that was worth mentioning when you started spending half your free time at his apartment? It didn't seem relevant, she said quickly. It's been years, Mark. I didn't want to make it weird. You didn't want to make it weird, I repeated, almost laughing. You're furnishing your ex's bedroom, and somehow I'm the one making it weird. That's not fair, she said, crossing her arms. No, I said, standing up, my voice still calm. You're right. It's not fair, but it's true. It's not like that, she said quickly. He just moved here. He doesn't know anyone. I was just helping him. Helping him build what? A life? A bedroom? A second chance? Stop twisting it, she said, defensive now. I stood up, rinsed my beer bottle in the sink. I'm not twisting anything. You twisted it when you lied about who he was. Rachel flinched. I didn't want you to get the wrong idea. I turned and looked at her. The wrong idea would have been thinking this was innocent. Turns out I had the right one all along. She didn't answer. That night, we barely spoke. She scrolled on her phone. I sat on the couch and pretended to watch TV, but really I was watching her reflection in the black screen between commercials. Sunday was quiet. She made breakfast. I washed dishes, neither of us filling the silence. In the afternoon, she came over to where I was sitting and said, He's almost done moving in. There's just a little left to do next weekend. After that, no more. I nodded slowly. Good. I'm sure Tuscany will be much more fun once you've finished nesting with your ex. That's not fair, she said sharply. Neither is spending every weekend with someone else, I replied. Her jaw tightened. I can't believe you're being this way. Then maybe you don't know me as well as you think, I said, standing up. We didn't talk the rest of the night. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling again, I realized I wasn't angry in the loud shouting way. I was angry in the quiet, calculated way, the kind that builds plans, the kind that doesn't explode but waits. Monday morning, I decided I wasn't going to guess anymore. I was going to let Rachel show me exactly who she was, and then I was going to decide what to do about it. Because now it wasn't just about Alex being a guy, it was about what she was willing to risk to keep him in her life, and whether she still wanted me in it. The house was too quiet the next few days, not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that makes you notice how loud the fridge hums. Rachel moved around carefully, like a cat in a room full of glass. I went through the motions, work, gym, dinner, but something in me had shifted. Thursday night we sat down to eat. I'd made chicken, mostly because it was what we had. We ate in silence for a while. Halfway through, Rachel put her fork down and said, He's almost done moving in. Just a few finishing touches left this weekend? I kept chewing. She waited, then added, He asked if I could come by Saturday night. Help him get everything set up so it's done. Just one night. After that, no more. I set my fork down slowly. You're seriously asking me to sit here while you spend a night at your ex's apartment? Rachel frowned. It's not like that, Mark. It's just furniture. No, Rachel, I said, keeping my voice calm. It stopped being about furniture 3 weeks ago. She sighed, pushing her plate away. You're overreacting. I'm just trying to help him settle in and put this behind us. Behind us? I leaned back in my chair. You've spent a month helping another man make his place feel like home. You've lied about who he was, hidden where you were going, smiled at your phone more than at me. And now you're asking me to bless a sleepover to finish the job? Rachel's voice sharpened. You don't own me, Mark. You don't get to tell me who I can spend time with, and if that's a problem for you, maybe we shouldn't be married. The words landed like a gavel. I stared at her for a long moment. Not angry, not shouting, just done. You're right, I said quietly. Maybe we shouldn't. For a second she just sat there blinking, like the words hadn't made sense yet. That's it? She asked finally. That's it, I said, standing up. I took my plate to the sink, rinsed it, set it in the dishwasher. I'm not going to fight you over this. You've made your choice. Rachel pushed back her chair. You're acting like I cheated on you. You didn't have to sleep with him to betray me, I said without turning around. You just had to keep choosing him over me. And you have. Every weekend, every late night, every text. I'm just finally believing you. She crossed her arms, defensive now. You're really throwing away 6 years over this? No, I said, turning to face her. You threw it away. I'm just taking out the trash. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, closed it again. I'll be sleeping in the guest room, she said after a long pause. Sleep wherever you want, I said. Doesn't make a difference now. I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and for the first time in weeks, slept without staring at the ceiling. The morning began calmly. Rachel left for work early. I made coffee, sat at the table, and stared at the Tuscany itinerary. I'd spent months planning that trip. The villa, the wine tastings, the coast drive she'd begged for. I picked up the folder, looked at it for a long minute, then set it aside. There was nothing left to fix. That afternoon, during lunch, I called the travel agency. I need to cancel a trip to Tuscany, I said. The woman on the line sounded disappointed for me. I told her to cancel everything, the villa, the tours, the rental car. When I hung up, I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. That night, Rachel came home and found me packing boxes in the living room. What are you doing? She asked, staring at the half-filled boxes. Getting started, I said simply. Started on what? On ending this, I said. She stood frozen in the doorway. You're serious? Yes. You're really going to throw away our marriage? I taped a box shut. You were the one who said maybe we shouldn't be married. I'm just taking your advice. She stepped closer, voice shaking. Can we at least talk about this? We did, I said calmly. At dinner. You gave me your terms. I gave you my answer. Rachel's eyes were wet now. Mark, please. I stood up and faced her. Please what? Pretend this never happened? Go back to smiling at your phone while I sit here wondering what else you're not telling me? Number, I'm done wondering. She didn't say anything. She just stood there breathing hard, then turned and went upstairs without another word. I went back to packing. I kept packing after she went upstairs. I could hear her moving around, drawers opening, footsteps back and forth, but she didn't come down. At one point, the floorboards creaked above me, then silence. By the time I taped the last box for the night, the living room looked like an eviction notice. I poured myself a drink, sat on the couch, and stared at the neat stack of boxes lined up against the wall. At some point, I heard the guest room door close upstairs. Good. Let her sleep on a different mattress tonight. Maybe that would give her a taste of what life apart feels like. I didn't go up to say goodnight. Morning came with an odd clarity. The house was quiet when I came downstairs. Rachel's shoes were gone from the hallway, her car from the driveway. She'd left early for work, maybe to avoid me. I made coffee, drank it slow, then started again. More drawers, more boxes. I moved through the house like a man checking tasks off a list. Bathroom first, then office desk, then that shelf with all her books that I never liked but always dusted anyway. By the time I was done, the living room looked like a staging area for a move-out. I left everything exactly where she'd see it. No point hiding what was coming. That evening, when I got home from work, the house still felt empty but charged, like it was waiting for something. I set my keys down, sat on the couch, and waited too. At 7:30, her car pulled up. The front door opened, then closed carefully, almost too carefully. Mark, in here. Her footsteps crossed the hall. She stopped dead in the doorway when she saw the room. What is this? Your things, I said simply, not bothering to get up. Her eyes swept over the boxes, then back to me. You're serious. I was serious last night, I said. This is just proof. She stepped into the room like it might collapse under her. Mark, this is crazy. We can fix this. We can talk. We talked, I said evenly. You said your piece. I gave you my answer. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't mean it. You meant it enough to say it. She crossed her arms, voice rising. You're just going to throw 6 years away? No, I said, standing now. I'm just refusing to spend the next 6 years being the understudy in my own marriage. She froze, blinking hard. Then, quietly, where am I supposed to go? That's up to you, I said. Her lips trembled, but she grabbed her bag, turned, and left without another word. I sat back down, listening to the silence she left behind. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like the house was finally exhaling after weeks of holding its breath. Saturday morning, I finished the job, taped the last box, stacked it with the others, lined them up like soldiers against the wall. Then I took the wedding album from the bookshelf and laid it gently on top of the final box. I didn't hide anything. If she was going to fight for this marriage, she needed to see exactly what she was losing. By afternoon, my phone started buzzing. Mark, please. Can we just stop and talk? I'll come home early. I'll explain everything. Please don't do anything you'll regret. I set the phone face down and kept moving. Around 3, I heard a car in the driveway. This time, she knocked. When I opened the door, Rachel stood there with no makeup, eyes red. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I stepped aside. She walked in, saw the full rows of boxes, and covered her mouth with her hand. You packed everything, she whispered. Yes. Mark, her voice broke. We can fix this. I'll cut him off. I'll block his number. We can go to counseling. Whatever you want. I shook my head. What I wanted was a wife who didn't spend the last month building a life with someone else. That's gone. Her tears spilled over. I was just trying to help him. You helped him make a home, I said, my voice still calm. And you turned ours into a waiting room. Rachel took a step closer. Don't do this. Please. I looked at her for a long moment. You asked for one night with him. I'm giving you forever without me. That's more than fair. She sobbed once, covered her mouth, then turned and walked out slowly. No slammed doors this time. When the silence settled again, it felt different. Not empty, clean. Monday morning came with an odd kind of lightness. The house was still quiet, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was like someone had opened a window and let all the stale air out. Rachel hadn't come home the night before. No note, no text, just absence. I poured myself coffee, sat at the table, and opened my laptop. My finger hovered over the keyboard for a second, but there was no hesitation. I typed, "Divorce attorney near me." By noon, I had an appointment. By the end of lunch break, I had filled out the preliminary paperwork. It was shockingly simple. A few forms, a few signatures, a few boxes checked. 6 years of marriage condensed into a PDF attachment. When I clicked send, I felt calm, not triumphant, not angry, just done. That evening, Rachel showed up. This time, she rang the doorbell. I opened the door but didn't step aside. Can we talk? She asked. We've been talking for a month, I said, and nothing changed. Her eyes darted to the boxes behind me. I told him I can't see him anymore. I blocked his number. I told HR, I don't want to be scheduled on the same projects. I'm trying, Mark. I nodded. Good. But that's between you and your conscience now. Her brow furrowed. What does that mean? It means, I said evenly, that I filed for divorce this morning. She blinked like she'd been slapped. You what? I filed, I repeated. It's done. No, she shook her head. You can't just... This isn't how you end a marriage. You ended it, I said quietly. I just signed the paperwork. Her hands curled into fists. I said I was sorry. And I said I believed you, I replied. I believe you're sorry. I also believe you knew exactly what you were doing every weekend you spent with him instead of me. Tears filled her eyes. So that's it? 6 years and you just throw me out? You threw yourself out when you chose him? I said. She took a shaky breath. You can't seriously believe I don't love you. I believe you loved me enough to want me waiting at home while you played project manager for your ex. I stepped aside and pointed at the boxes. There's your life. Take it. Rachel didn't move. She just stood there, tears streaming, until finally she whispered, You're really doing this? Yes, I said simply. She picked up one box, then another. You're going to regret this. No, I said. I regret waiting this long. Her jaw trembled. She put the boxes down, grabbed her keys, and left. This time, there was no door slam, no shouting, just the sound of her car starting, then fading down the street. 3 weeks later, the house was almost empty of her things. The papers were signed, waiting for the court date. I'd switched the utilities to my name, changed the locks, even rearranged the furniture. The house didn't feel like our house anymore. It felt like my house. One evening, I got a text from Rachel. I still love you? I wish we could fix this. I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed back, You asked for one night. I gave you forever. We're even. Then I put the phone down and went back to what I was doing. Cooking dinner for one, music playing low in the background. And for the first time in a long time, I caught myself smiling. Not because I won, not because I hurt her back, but because I finally felt like myself again. The divorce was finalized a month later. Simple, clean, uncontested. Rachel didn't fight, maybe because she knew she couldn't. I kept the house, the car, and most of the furniture. Not out of spite, just because I was the one still living there. Sometimes I still find one of her hair ties in a drawer or a sweater she forgot to pack. I put them in a small box in the closet. Not because I want her back, but because it's part of my history, and I don't hate my history. I just refuse to live in it. A few weeks after the court date, I took the trip to Tuscany anyway, alone. I stayed in the villa we'd booked, drank wine under the same olive trees we'd talked about. And you know what? It wasn't lonely. It was quiet. It was mine. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.